Hello and welcome to EnglishPod Studio. I'm glad you're here today. This podcast is a good way to practice your English listening skills. You will hear clear, simple English that is easy to understand. You can listen, learn new words, and think about your own daily life. Today, I want to talk about something that may sound strange at first: why failure is actually good for you. Most people don't like failure. It feels bad when we don't succeed. We might feel embarrassed, sad, or even want to give up. But what if I told you that failure is not the end? What if I told you that failure can be one of the best teachers in life? Let's think about it. Every time we fail, we learn something. We learn what didn't work. We see our mistakes more clearly. And if we try again, we usually do better. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey to success. I remember a time when I failed badly. I was applying for a job I really wanted. I prepared for days, but during the interview, I got nervous. I forgot my answers and could not explain my ideas well. After the interview, I knew I would not get the job. And yes, I felt terrible. But here is the interesting part. That experience made me stronger. I realized I needed to practice speaking more and prepare in a different way. The next time I had an interview, I did much better. And I got the job. Without that first failure, I would not have improved. Failure can also teach us patience. Sometimes we expect things to work quickly. We want to be good at something from the start. But skills take time to grow. Failure reminds us to slow down, keep practicing, and stay focused. Another good thing about failure is that it makes success feel more valuable. If everything was easy, we would not appreciate it. When we work hard, fail, and then finally succeed, the success feels more meaningful. Think about learning English. Maybe you tried to speak and made mistakes. Maybe you forgot words or used the wrong grammar. You might have felt embarrassed. But every time you try again, you improve. Each mistake is a step forward. Let's continue our talk about why failure is good for you. Earlier, I told you that failure is not the end, but part of the journey. Now I want to share some stories of famous people who failed many times before they reached success. These stories can inspire us and show that failure is a normal part of growth. One famous example is Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. He did not create the light bulb on his first try, or even his 100th try. In fact, he failed thousands of times before finding the right way. When someone asked him about his failures, he said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that do not work." This shows that he saw failure as learning, not as defeat. Another example is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. Before her books became famous, she was rejected by many publishers. She could have stopped trying, but she didn't. She kept working on her story until someone finally accepted it. Today, millions of people around the world read her books. We can also think about Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in history. Early in his career, he did not make it onto his high school basketball team. He felt disappointed, but instead of quitting, he practiced harder. He used his failure as motivation. Later, he became a legend in the sport. These stories show that failure can be the fuel that pushes us forward. Without failure, we might not have the energy or reason to improve. It gives us valuable lessons about hard work, patience, and never giving up. Failure also teaches us creativity. When something doesn't work, we have to think of a new way to solve the problem. This helps us grow our minds. For example, if you fail at cooking a recipe, you might try changing the ingredients or the method. If you fail at solving a problem at work, you may discover a better solution by thinking differently. And here is something important. Failure teaches humility. When we fail, we remember that we are human. We are not perfect. This makes us kinder to others when they failed too. It helps us understand that everyone is learning. So the next time you fail, try to see it differently. Instead of saying, I can't do this, say, I can't do this yet, but I'm learning. That small change in thinking can make a big difference. Now that we've talked about why failure is good for you and shared some inspiring stories, let's focus on something practical: how to deal with failure in a healthy way. It's one thing to know that failure is normal, but it's another thing to actually handle it without losing motivation. The first step is accept the failure. Many people try to ignore their failure or pretend it didn't happen. But the truth is, accepting it is the most important step. When you say to yourself, yes, I failed this time, you are taking responsibility. This gives you the power to change things in the future. If you don't accept it, you can't learn from it. The second step is understand what went wrong. Ask yourself some simple but important questions. What was my goal? What did I do to reach it? Which part didn't work? Could I have done something differently? When you find the answers, you can see failure not as a punishment, but as information. It's feedback from life telling you, this way didn't work. Try another. The third step is be kind to yourself. We often speak to ourselves in a very negative way after failing. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I'll never succeed. But if your friend failed, would you talk to them like that? Of course not. You would be supportive. Treat yourself the same way you would treat a friend. The fourth step is take action quickly. Don't let failure make you stop for too long. Give yourself time to process it, but then make a plan for what to do next. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to start again. Even small steps matter. The fifth step is remember your bigger goal. Sometimes we fail at one small thing and forget that it's just part of a much bigger journey. One bad test score doesn't mean you'll never learn English. One rejected job application doesn't mean you'll never find work. Keep your eyes on the bigger picture. Finally, the sixth step is stay open to learning. Failure can teach us more than success if we're willing to listen. Every mistake has a lesson. Sometimes that lesson is about skills. Sometimes it's about patience. And sometimes it's about courage. When you follow these steps, failure will not feel like a wall blocking your way. Instead, it will feel like a stepping stone, helping you move forward. Let's talk about something that might sound strange at first. Failing early and failing often can actually help you succeed faster. Many people think success means avoiding failure for as long as possible. But the truth is, the people who succeed the fastest are often the ones who try many things, fail, learn, and try again. When you fail early, you learn early. Imagine you want to start a business. If you wait for the perfect moment and plan for years, your first real mistake might happen very late, and that mistake could be very costly. But if you start early, even without being fully ready, You will make small mistakes quickly. Each mistake teaches you something before you have invested too much time or energy. When you fail often, you grow stronger. Think of failure like exercise for your mind and emotions. The first time you fail, it might feel very painful, but the more you experience failure, the less it scares you. You learn how to recover faster. You stop seeing failure as the end and start seeing it as part of the process. Failing often also helps you discover what works for you. Let's say you're learning English. You try one method, maybe just reading books, and you see slow progress. That's a small failure. So you try something else, like joining a speaking club. That works better. By experimenting, failing, and trying again, you find the methods that help you improve the fastest. Another benefit of failing often is that you collect more experience. Experience is one of the most valuable things in life. Every time you fail, you gain experience. You learn how to manage stress, solve problems, and adapt to changes. These skills make you stronger, not only for your current goal, but for any challenge in the future. Many successful people agree that their early failures were the best teachers. A writer might say, I wrote 3 books that no one wanted to publish before I wrote my first bestseller. A business owner might say, I started 2 companies that failed before I built the one that changed my life. An athlete might say, I lost many games before I learned how to win the important ones. These people did not avoid failure, they embraced it. They understood that the faster they faced it, the faster they could learn and improve. These people did not avoid failure, they embraced it. They understood that the faster they faced it, the faster they could learn and improve. So instead of fearing failure, see it as part of your training. The earlier and more often you face it, the stronger and more successful you will become. Now, let's look at some real-life examples of people who turned their biggest failures into their greatest successes. These stories show us that failure is not the opposite of success. It is often the path to it. One of the most famous examples is Thomas Edison, the inventor of the electric light bulb. He tried thousands of times before creating a working design. When someone asked him how it felt to fail so many times, he replied, I didn't fail. I found 10,000 ways that did not work. Edison understood that every failure was actually progress. Without those failed attempts, he would never have succeeded. Another inspiring story is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books. Before becoming one of the most successful writers in the world, she faced rejection from many publishers. She was also struggling in her personal life and living with very little money. But she kept writing. She believed in her story. Finally, one publisher gave her a chance, and the rest is history. Her early failures gave her the determination to keep going. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, also had his share of failure. In high school, he was cut from the basketball team. Instead of giving up, he trained harder than ever. He has said, I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. I have failed over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed. What do these stories have in common? Each person experienced failure, sometimes many times. But instead of stopping, they kept moving forward. They learned from their mistakes, stayed committed to their goals, and used failure as fuel for success. So, what can we take away from these stories? Failure is a teacher, not a punishment. Every mistake gives you information you can use to improve. Success is not about avoiding failure, but about continuing in spite of it. If you want to achieve something important, learning English, building a career, creating something new, you must accept that failure will be part of your journey. But remember, each failure brings you one step closer to your goal. The next time you fail, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Then use that lesson to try again. Over time, you will see that failure is not something to fear, it's something to value. Thank you for listening to this episode of EnglishPod Studio. I hope this conversation has helped you see failure in a new light. Remember, every mistake is a lesson, every setback is a chance to grow, and every failure can be the beginning of something great. Keep learning, keep trying, and keep moving forward.